Welcome to Hello Port Hueneme. I'm your host Tom Dunn, and today we're with the Mayor of Port Hueneme, Tom Figg. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
We are starting a show called the Mayor's Corner, where the mayor will be on camera a couple times a month to talk about the various items that are going on at the City Council and the city overall, so that the people can be informed and get a good communication going and understand what the city is trying to do and what issues they need to address. But first of all, I'd like for Tom to give you a little background bio of how he got to where he is now, the mayor of Port Hueneme.
Well, I'm a Northern California transplant. I was born and raised in Sacramento and migrated down to San Luis Obispo, graduated from Cal Poly with a degree in urban planning, and had the good fortune of being hired by the city of Port Hueneme right out of college. And I didn't realize how fortunate I really was, because I walked into a situation that I've not seen since in any other community, and that was a desire to rebuild the community, to bring together professionals. The City Council was 100% behind our initiatives to redevelop the area, and I just had a great time. And so I was proud and privileged to be part of a team that helped rebuild the community. I was here for about 22 years before I was recruited by the City of Ventura to do a similar effort in their downtown redevelopment area. I was there for a little over 2 years and decided to set up my own shop. And so for the subsequent 20 years, I have been providing consulting services to both public and agencies and private developers up and down the Central Coast, and I'm to this day continue on in that capacity.
Well, that's quite a history. So you've been here since the mid-'70s, and what motivated you to get involved with the City Council?
Well, I have 40 years invested in Port Hueneme, so 20 plus years was in a capacity as a staff member working to help rebuild the community. And then the other 20 years I did go into my own business and work for the City of Ventura, but I remained a resident. So I have 40 years of residency in Port Hueneme. So I've seen the good times, the bad times, and the last couple of years I was concerned by some of the things that were happening in the community, and I'm a believer in put your money where your mouth is, and if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, and that's how I approached running for office, is that I wanted to be a contributor to problem solving.
All right, you've had 2 years now, you've been on the council. What's your assessment of what's been going on?
Well, the problems are complicated and many, but there are also a lot of alternatives and potential solutions. I guess the one thing that I found that I didn't truly appreciate when I ran for office was the urgency of solving some of these problems. Is that time is not our friend, and we're running short of it. So it's the urgency, and by nature I'm an impatient person, and that just adds to my energy level and desire to get something done now.
So what issues do you see right now that are most pressure that you and the City Council are going to have to deal with?
Oh, the financial condition of the city. The city has what we would call as a structural deficit, which means that the cost of services are outpacing the revenues that we receive. This is not a new phenomena, but it continues to grow, and the consequence is that it's draining the city's reserve funds. And you can only do that for so long before you'll run out of money. And we're very close to that happening. So there's no question having to find ways to further reduce the cost of services and increase revenues is critically important.
There's another major issue also, which I believe is the water rates and the water quality. What do you plan to do about that?
Well, that's another perplexing issue, and it has to do with the source of water that we receive, compounded by the drought, which has contributed to this discoloration of water that people, I think, are concerned about. It's not a health issue. It's an aesthetic issue, and it can, contribute to internal problems, whether it's washing clothes and the sort. So one of the things that we're exploring are alternatives to the way we've been treating our water. In the last year, we haven't really been able to do the kind of filtration that the city's treatment plant was built to do because of the water we're receiving from the sources are having to draw deeper into the wells, into the aquifers, and that's drawing up these minerals that's discoloring the water and plugging up the city's filtration system. So one of the things that we're doing is to explore different ways of utilizing these sources of water, different levels of treatment, exploring whether it would be beneficial for the public to take it upon themselves to invest in their own filtration systems at the point of connection. That may help to reduce the rates, because what we have right now is the city's water rates are the highest of any municipal service provider in Ventura County, and yet we have the lowest incomes of any city in Ventura County. That's the perfect storm. So you have people that can't afford to pay for the high cost of water, and they're not receiving the quality that's advertised.
Since we're talking about water, another big issue that the citizens of Port Hueneme have is the shoreline erosion. What the water does to the beaches there. You want to deal with that?
Well, we're coming out of a dredge cycle right now. The beach looks healthy, but you shouldn't sit on your laurels. I'm afraid that this is a reoccurring circumstance since the Corps of Engineers has been providing sand replenishment by way of its dredging operations going back to 1960. Each dredge cycle, we're finding that we're getting less and less sand that we need in order to keep the beach in a steady state condition. What that means is that over time, as you have less and less sand being delivered, the incidence of erosion will become more frequent and more severe. And so we need to find a way in which we can be more assured that we're getting our appropriate share of sand. After all, it's the harbor and the Navy that owns the jetties that contributes to the erosion.
And that's very important because it was it 2014 that part of the sidewalk and the seawall along Surfside Drive was taken out?
Yeah, and we were fortunate that our legislative representatives assisted us, both at the state and federal level, to pay for some of the expense needed to prevent any further damage from being done. But in the end, it cost the city almost $2 million out of its own pocket. I want to prevent that from happening in the future. We need to be in front of these problems, not in a crisis mode, and then having to catch up. So definitely an issue that's still out there, and we still at this point don't have a permanent fix.
Now, you have presented to the City Council a strategic action plan, and that you got from various sources of talking to people and being around for a while. What are the main things on there that you're going to be discussing over the next couple months?
Well, they're largely directed on the financial challenges that the city has, exploring different revenue sources. Some of it is tax alternatives, for instance, a parcel tax dedicated to police services, looking at retooling the city's assessment districts, which provide median lighting and drainage services so that we get full cost recovery, looking at business attraction and retention programs so that we can backfill a lot of the vacant storefronts that we have in the city. It's better to have higher occupancy, even if we have to adjust our rates to encourage that occupancy, than to keep at a 25% vacancy level and we're not getting anything from those vacancies. So the plan is largely directed at financial issues because they're the most urgent. But it does touch upon things like the shoreline erosion and creating a coalition of stakeholders and agencies to jointly lobby in Congress for special legislation to fix this ongoing problem, reoccurring problem of shoreline erosion. So there's a number of facets to the action plan that collectively are intended to address the multitude of challenges that we have in front of us.
This is going to take you and the City Council a lot of work and time. Do you feel that the Council and yourself are headed in the right direction to right as many of these issues as you can?
Well, and some people characterize the plan as the mayor's plan. And I don't look at it that way. A lot of the, yes, I did craft it, I did present it to the council, but it embodies ideas that have been floated out to the council for the past several years. I just put it into a more of a digestible form for people to be able to understand the options that we have. The council has received this back in December. For a variety of scheduling reasons, we weren't able to really dig into it until now. The first meeting in which we will get into that kind of discussion will be the first meeting in March. And then I expect that'll probably require a subsequent meeting, maybe the second meeting in March as well. So I have this sense of urgency. My middle name is impatient. And we truly do, we're running out of time. So March, I expect, is when we're going to really drill down on this and come to some sort of consensus as a council and make the appropriate allocations.
Getting the public involved in this is, I think, really good. One is, I think, from many people I talk to, they've been felt left out of the process and over the last few years, and that now any input they have, as you said, it's a time frame, and if we have ideas coming in, and we have a lot of smart people here that have retired and have business experience, and how are you planning to get the community involved?
Well, the action plan actually has several initiatives to provide greater civic involvement. For instance, by creating a standing citizens advisory committee that can help elicit public input and then evaluate the information that's received and provide recommendations back to the City Council. We've also seen a wonderful outpouring of public support in volunteerism over the last year that's helped save some of the programs that would otherwise be terminated because of our budget challenges. And the action plan tries to harness that energy, create a vehicle in which volunteers can take over some of the programming and fundraising of activities that are still at risk of being terminated. So the action plan has a very robust citizen participation component.
One last thing that many of the citizens talk about on social media and various other types of communication is the beach festival, which we didn't have this last year, which was explained that the city lost a good deal of money on it and want to take a year hiatus. Is there some positive progress being looked into about how in the future that can be reinstated?
Yeah, I don't know, depending on if you've been here 40 years or 10 years, some folks may not realize that the Hueneme Beach Festival was an outcome of an earlier effort known as Harbor Days. And Harbor Days was a celebration of the city and the port. And for various reasons, it gravitated to the Hueneme Beach Festival. There's thoughts now of maybe revisiting that model, drawing upon the resources of the harbor and the city, and have a combined festival. Instead of a separate, say, standalone banana festival and a beach festival, we bring it back together as to the way it was once before, when there was this celebration of the symbiotic relationship of the city and the port. So I'm very encouraged by that idea, and that's part of the action plan, is to vet that issue out and work with the harbor on seeing if that can come to be.
Mayor, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you
nice
for having
having you
me.
here, and
I'll look forward to it.
we'll be with the mayor again on another Mayor's Corner. So watch all the other Hello Port Hueneme shows, and thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.